One. What's up, YouTube family? It's your boy Jo, and welcome to another episode of Validated Prison Stories. You already know what time it is. Hit that like and subscribe and bell notification if you like this content, and leave a comment. Let me know how I'm doing. And for the haters, hit that dislike button. I like the feedback. So let me know what's up. Today, we've got a very, very special guest on the show. And without further ado, I'm going to hand it off to, what's your name and who you
My
from?
name is Kiki. My name is Kiki, and I'm from Washington.
Great. Now, what's your prison background?
Personally, myself, I've never been in prison, but my whole childhood, my father was in prison.
Okay, all right. Now, when you say whole childhood, what age did your dad start going to prison? How old were you when he started going to prison?
He started going to prison when I was 4 and got out when I was 16.
Okay. And what's your earliest memory of prison or jail? Did you ever go see him in county jail?
I believe so.
But not really, can't really remember the
Can't
jail.
really remember.
Right. So what's your first memory of going to see your dad in prison?
I think my first memory going to see him in prison was being in like a cafeteria, and it was kind of just like guards everywhere, but like we could still do like face paintings and like fishing and stuff outside.
Now, I'm sorry, did you say fishing?
Yeah.
Explain to me how that worked.
Well, there was like I don't know if it was like actually fishing, but it was like a thing outside with like fish in it.
Oh, okay. So they had like a little aquarium outside and you got to go. Was this like every visiting or was this just like a
No, not every visiting.
Oh, okay. Now, for the audience, I do know, with my prison experience, I do know that they have in the different joints that I was in, they used to have like family event days and stuff like that. So the fishing thing is very interesting, though. That's very interesting. Do you so walk me along your age, from the time you were 4 till the time you were 16. What was do you remember what your first feelings were of going inside? I mean, you kind of explained the cafeteria and everything, but what was your feelings on the inside of, your dad being in this place and you going here? Did you have any anxieties or fears, or was this just kind of like, oh, this is my dad and this is what he does and this is what we got to do to see him? Or what was your feelings like?
I think when I was younger, I didn't really understand what it meant. So it was like my mom would take me to go see my dad, and I just didn't understand what it meant at that age. So I was just excited to see him. It wasn't really scary going in at first.
Right. And then at what age do you remember it being, oh, my dad's in prison, and, you know,
I
having a better understanding of what prison really was?
think I was probably like 12 or 13 when I finally realized that like what he was doing to get him in prison.
Right. Now that's a very interesting topic. What were your feelings? Did your feelings change towards your dad when you understood what he was doing to get himself in prison?
I mean, as I got older, when I started to realize what he was doing, I kind of got mad at him a little bit and frustrated that he chose to do that stuff.
Right. What Do you remember exactly the feelings or the how it made you feel as far as
Um, well, sometimes I hated him for it,
Mhm.
and sometimes I kind of just had to like process that people do stupid things in their life. So,
Right. Did you did you ever feel like, man, my dad chose this life over me?
yeah, a lot of the times as I started to get into my teenage years, I would think that, oh, my dad wanted to do this instead of spend time with his children.
Right. Right. Yeah, I can only imagine, myself, uh, my dad wasn't present in my life either. And it wasn't until I was older that I realized why and I had a better understanding of things. Um, and I can only imagine from a girl's perspective. Obviously I'm not a girl, so I don't know that. What was your contact like with your dad throughout prison besides visitation? Would he Did you talk to him on a regular basis over the phone or letters or anything like that?
He would send me letters a lot. I mean, I would write back to him sometimes, and then as I got older, didn't want to write him back, so I would just wait for a phone call, and he'd call me, and we'd spend the whole 20, 30 minutes talking on the phone about stuff that's going on.
Yeah. How important well, first of all, let me ask you this. How close are you and your dad?
We're pretty close,
Yeah.
like two peas in a pod close.
Yeah. And so even with the absence in your like the critical time of your life, the teenage years, and even as far as it sounds like from the physical aspect, he was missing, but he was there. Was he there in another form or fashion?
I mean, he was there as much as he could be through the phone and visits and letters. He was there as much as he possibly could be.
Yeah. And uh, what was the worst experience that you remember with visiting with the prison visitation? Sorry if you can hear that. We have airplanes flying over right now amid the COVID crisis. Uh, but anyways, what was your worst memory of a prison visit?
Um, I think my worst memory was having to leave a prison visit without my dad
Oh yeah.
because I didn't I've never been in, so I don't know what they do after he goes back after his visitation. I don't That was always my worst fear, like does he get in more trouble or like what happens?
Right, right,
So it was always kind of scary, like leaving my dad in a prison as I got to walk out into the world.
right. Exactly. That I can imagine what that must feel like. Now, what about what's the process as a me personally? I've never went and seen somebody in prison. However, I've went and seen people in county jail. I know it's a lot different process. What's the process of going to see somebody who's in prison?
Um, well, going to see someone in prison, you have to like get your picture taken so that they have it in file, and then you have to wait and sit down, and then they have to like if you're under a certain age, they have to ask parents permission to pat you down, and they like take you in a room with your parent if you're under a certain age, and they like you gotta open your arms out and stuff, and they have to like pat you down to make sure that you have like no weapons or anything or something that you could sneak into the prisoner.
Mm. Now, for my audience, stuff that may be sneaked into a penitentiary would be drugs, kites from other prisoners, or letters, messages from other prisoners to get to somebody so that they could follow through with the orders of of whatever the message was. I know that in the institutions I've been in, there is no inmate to inmate correspondence unless it's family and that you can prove that it's family. So that's where that comes in. You want to get a message to somebody, you shoot it through your family, and they take it to or pass it to whoever's going to see that person. Drugs is the main culprit. Um, weapons, I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but it'd be really hard to sneak back a snub nose 38, and some, you know, that'd be very difficult. I'm not saying that that doesn't happen, but um, what age do you remember first being? Now, that was very interesting because for me personally, I did not know that visitors went through a pat down of any kind. I didn't know that they, especially children. I didn't know that. What age do you remember being pat down?
Probably when I was 14 or 15.
14 or 15. Now I can tell you from an inmate convict perspective, uh, what happens. The only thing that happens to a convict that after visitation is a regular old strip search. Now sometimes you get real assholes who want freaking squat and cough and bend spread cheeks and all that stuff. Most of the time though, at least in my experience, was stripped down, fingers, hands, armpits, nuts, butt, back of the feet, that kind of stuff. It wasn't very intrusive, but there were a couple times where I, got the full, workup. But yeah, so and they, prisoners don't, depending on what they're doing inside, as far as whether they get in trouble or not, that's kind of on them. So to relieve your mind a little bit, I can tell you that your dad, depending on how he was living and whatnot, depended on how he got, if he got in trouble. Um, did they have metal detectors of any kind?
Yeah, you had to walk through metal detectors before you went into every visit.
Mm. And that, my friends, would stop the snub nose 38. So you're not gonna get a chunk of iron through in visitation. However, uh, as I've seen in my past, plastics of even a newspaper. I've seen a newspaper made into an 8-inch shank that would go straight to your spine out of a newspaper. So I'm not saying that weapons don't get past in visiting, but I would tend and bet to say that it's not nearly as often as drugs or messages or things like that. So when you got to visiting, what would you and your dad, what was his first, what was his, I'm sure he was happy to see you, but was there anything else that he was real anxious about?
I mean, I can't really remember.
Right. The only reason why I
It was a
asked,
long time ago.
right, the only reason why I asked that question specifically is I know for me, it was good to see my family when I had visits. It really was. Um, but I love the vending machines too, man. The food was, I couldn't wait to get to the food. So that's why I asked the question. I didn't know if there was something that you noticed that stood out to you about, what he was interested in doing. What would you guys do?
Um, I know my little brother would go to the visits a lot with us too, with his grandma, and we would we'd talk and we would play board games, and him and my little brother would wrestle on the play mats that they have.
Right, right. Now, what your how now you said you had a little brother. How um was he around your age when you first started going to prison to see your dad, when he was going with you to see him?
Yeah, I'd say the first time he probably went to a visit, he was probably 5 or 6, maybe.
Right. Now, what were your feelings towards your little brother and your dad? Like, did you was there did you have any feelings of, you know, um, hoping that your dad didn't do the same to your brother, or hoping that your brother didn't have to go through this like you did? Um, was there any of that?
Um, I mean, I'd always hoped that my little brother didn't have to go through the feelings that I did and like being upset for so long. Because when my dad was in prison, my little brother was younger, but he didn't have to go through it as many years as I had to.
Right, right. So, um, so you guys played video game. I mean, not video games. You see where my mind's at. Played board games, and um, was there? Let's see. What was your little brother's reaction to going?
I think he knew that our dad was in prison, but I don't think like he didn't know what for, and I don't think he really understood. Like when I was little, I didn't understand what it was, and I don't think my brother really understood what it was either.
Right, right.
I
He
think he
was
was just more excited to see him.
right. Just that excitement of getting to see your dad. Yeah, yeah. So, what was it like? Yeah, I'm assuming your dad's out now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was it like the day or the days leading up to his getting out, and then take me into the day he got out and explain to me the emotions and feelings.
Um, well, I started counting down the days from like 1,000 days.
Oh man, that's so
I would
cool.
I would count them down, and then when it got like to 5 months, I'd really like pay attention to like how many days. And he'd call me sometimes and say, "Well, they pushed it back," and then he'd call me sometimes again and say it was closer. So then when he finally got the set date, it was like, okay, and now I can start counting down the days.
Right,
And so I started counting them down, and it got to like 30 days, and I was like, okay, my dad's getting out. Like, what the hell is going
right,
on? Like, this is gonna be weird. And then I think it was like the day of that he was getting out, uh, or the day before, I think, he called me that night and told me that what he had planned for the next day and what he was gonna do and where he would be. And the day that he got out, I had woke up to somebody calling my phone, and I wasn't sure who it was because it was just like an odd number, and I was like, who's calling me?
right,
And normally I don't answer phone calls with numbers that I don't know, but he was like, you got to answer a phone if it's just a random number.
right,
And so I answered the phone, and it was my dad, and I like freaked out because he's calling me from like somebody else's phone out in the
right,
real world instead of a prison phone when I know the number. So
right,
then I asked him if the person's phone that he was using was an iPhone, and he was like, uh, I don't know. And he's asking, he's like, hey, is this an iPhone? So then we figured out that it was, so he FaceTimed and while he was on the transit bus getting to where he was going. And it was like, it was so cool, but it was so weird to see my dad like out of prison.
right,
Like it was just like I wasn't used to it because he had been in for so long. It was like what the hell are you doing?
right, right. Did you escape? Is this supposed to be happening? Right, that's awesome. And what so I'm sure there was excitement.
Yeah.
Was there any fear?
Um, there was fear when he first got out. I was scared that he would mess up again and go back.
Mhm.
So it was kind of always like, okay, talk to him, make sure he's not doing anything stupid, like make sure he's not having the mindset to go back to where he was.
That's awesome. That's awesome to hear, but it's also, it's really too bad that kids must experience these feelings, because those are, that's a lot to go through and a lot to worry about. So it's heartbreaking to hear that, kids, and the population of the prison community is enormous in the United States. It's huge. It's the biggest of any country in the world, and we're nowhere close to being the largest country. Um, so uh, now when he got out, so what was his first day's plan? What did he do his first day? Did you see him his first day?
I believe, yeah.
Yeah.
I seen him his first day, and me and my mom and my stepdad went to go pick him up from where he was at, and I took him out to eat at Applebee's,
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
he tried to get a drink with his prison ID, and it didn't work. But then got the bartender's phone number.
Wow. Well, that's a good first day out. I would take that. Yeah, absolutely. So now, are what would you tell any 12 or 13-year-old girl whose father is getting ready to go to prison? What would you tell that girl, what to expect and what to prepare for? Let's say a 12 or 13-year-old girl's got her dad's got a 10 or 15-year sentence. What can that girl expect, and what can she go through along the way? And is there any advice that you would give her to help her through that time?
Um, I would tell her that it's gonna be hard at first, um, but as it goes by fast. It like you're you're gonna think that it's gonna go by super slow, but it will go by faster than she would think.
Mm,
Um, I would tell her to expect hurt feelings and to have to go through things by herself without being able to go tell her dad as soon as it happened.
right. You got to wait for that phone call.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's good advice. That's really good. And I know from a convict's standpoint, it's the same way. The time just flies by once you're in there. After you get the first year down, it's all downhill after that. Now, I for the as we wrap the video up, I'd like to take the time. I assume your dad is out now. Yeah.
Yeah.
How's he doing now?
Um, he's doing good. I don't remember seeing him out of prison or jail when I was younger. Um, but I know now that he's probably been the best he's ever been from my perspective.
Right.
While he was in or out, I think he's been better than he has ever been, and he's happy.
That's awesome. That's really good to hear. Now, let me see. If if you well, let's see. Um, do you get to see him? You get to see him a lot. Is he close to you?
Yeah, he only lives like 30 minutes away from me, and he has his own place, so I can just go over there whenever I want.
That's really good. That's really good. Well, I just want to first of all, I want to thank you for coming on the show. I want to thank you for your time, and also for your perspective. This is a video that I um, I was really interested in doing, only because it gives a different perspective of prison. It's not necessarily um, the inner workings of prison, but this is still a big part of prison. And anybody that has somebody locked up, family member, dad, mother, brother, sister, whatever, I encourage strongly that you go and visit them if you can. Make sure you take money for the vending machine. I will tell you that. Do not show up at a visit with no money for the vending machine. But it was an honor and a delight on my behalf to have you on. I'm thankful that you could, shed a different perspective, and it makes me think with my own, with my own situation. So once again, Kiki, I appreciate the time, and also uh, congratulations, and I hope and continue. I hope your dad has continued success in his future. So thanks again for coming on, and I appreciate your time.
You're welcome.